as I get more and more into carving, I've become more interested in carving things like hands and faces and arms and human anatomy in general. So on my Twitch stream today, I'm recording this just before the stream, I'm gonna carve 6 little blocks of lime wood into heads, so we're doing like a head study. I'll narrate throughout the video and I'll share with you some of the resources I've used and some of the sketching and stuff that I've done to try and help me, and we'll see if I improve from number 1 all the way up to number 6 and see how I change things as I go along. So I hope you enjoy the video. So I started with the usual way you see to draw faces, which quite often is a big circle on the top and then a kind of trapezoidal shape going down to the bottom towards the chin. That's more of a kind of masculine kind of face, but I find those kind of faces easier, so I guess that's what I went for in this video. Now I'm just trying to isolate the nose away from where kind of the eye sockets are. And I think in all these faces I made the mistake of making them a bit too flat, because I'm so used to doing it with the wood spirits on a piece that's not so deep, that I make them more like a kind of relief carving and less like an actual carving in the round. So I think what I did in this video was somewhere between the two. So now I'm just working out where the eyes are with the gouge. Now shaving off the side, taking away any bits on the edge that look like they shouldn't be there. I didn't really have a proper guide for that, I just kind of went for it. Now I'm using the nice big file gouge that I've got to take away the sort of jaw down towards the chin. And this bit, I'm trying to work out the profile. You can see a really rough kind of drawing of a profile there. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get. I keep looking from the side, figuring out where the lips and the nose are going to be. The lips are always quite hard to do without a pout on them. But here I'm just trying to find out where the bit underneath the bottom lip is. If you think about your bottom lip, there's like a curve under there. So that's what that gouge mark going across sideways was. And now I'm just doing the little bit under the nose, I can't remember the name, maybe the philtrum it might be called. And trying to just make the head more round because it's quite flat. Now just sorting out the little lips at the bottom, adding a little cut, making it go downwards. Sort of I mean, they look kind of grumpy, but I feel like that's one of the easier facial expressions to do. The lips kind of sloping downwards a little bit. So that's what I opt for in all of these carvings. Head 2, now I'm just taking the big gouge and rounding it over the top, where I can see the top kind of spherical part of the head is, trying to take that out. And now I'm doing this kind of feature. Normally with a wood spirit I would do a straight line across horizontally for the brow, but I decided to do curves on this one, just because you end up kind of curving it anyway, so I thought I'd try and get a step ahead of myself and do a bit of a curve. I don't think that's really a good idea for the way that the style that I like to do, so you'll see later on I go back to doing the kind of straight lines. And now I'm just using it to find the bottom of the chin again. This one was a lot faster. You have to bear in mind that each of these heads took around 40 minutes, with exception to the last little head which took about an hour. So yeah, I was sort of trying to rush through these. So I know if I had spent longer I could have made them better, but you know, this was an exercise in trying to go faster and sort of pushing myself a bit more in order to try and find shapes quickly. That was the whole point of this exercise. So that one I think turned out a little better than the other one. So here, head 3, now I'm doing the straight horizontal line across the brow as I do with the wood spirits that I do. You can see I've chipped off a bit more than I wanted to above the brow, but that's okay. And I've already done that little slant in the nose, but I haven't really made the full triangle of the nose yet. We haven't gone underneath the nose yet, so now I'm just trying to clean up the top because I took away that bit above the brow, but also I had in mind the fact that I could make this more in the round because I took away that part, so maybe this was my cue to make it more on the round because I took off more than I wanted there. So now if you look at the shape of the nose, you can see the kind of planes. It has that kind of flat bit at the front, or the isolated bit at the front, and then all the other planes sweeping backwards from it. That's the really rough shape, that drawing we showed there, a really rough shape of a nose. But once again, it totally depends on the kind of nose. And these are really quick, so have to bear in mind that that was just a really simple drawing of the kind of thing I was trying to achieve. And I'm adding the little kind of nostril indications on the side. And here's head 4. So once again using the big chisel to get some of the roundness on the top of the head. I think I started doing that just because it was sort of helping me out a bit. This head, however, I really tried to push, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take loads of material off of the big chisel just to try and get the shape, but you can see right now that that was a bad idea because the shape of that head is absolutely not right. So I tried to rush a bit more, thinking that I had become confident enough in it to just go ahead and blast forwards and just take loads of material off with the big chisel, but in reality I should have stepped back a bit, looked for a couple of minutes and then made the cuts, but instead I just went for it, and it was a bad idea. This was easily the worst head that I did, and for that reason I'm having no drawings pop up because it was bad. It looks kind of, looks alright as kind of like a caricature kind of thing, but the shape of the head is just totally wrong. So head number 5 now. Now I've gone back, I've reverted back to where I was in head number 3. Head number 4 I've just tried to forget at this point, and now I'm doing that same technique with the horizontal line for the brow and the triangular shape for the nose, and I'm just trying to shave away some material there. And now at this point, this drawing is trying to indicate the 2 circles on the side where the eyes are, and the dots in the middle is where I want the highest points to be. So you kind of want to make the eyeballs appear in the head and then carve them down afterwards. It sort of feels like you want to do the sockets sometimes. And that's just the little line that I make for the shape of the mouth. I make that little line, just a normal straight cut straight into the wood, and then get the chisel like I'm doing there and cutting down underneath into it. Then we're just shaping off the top of the head again. And this is one of the better heads, I think. Still like an ultra masculine head, but as I said, they're kind of easier to do, and it's the style I'm used to, so I guess that's why I kind of reverted to that. Now head 6, we're going back to the basics again. We're drawing the big circle. We're going to draw the trapezoidal shape underneath for the jaw and the chin, and then we're going to start carving. So now I'm going to use the big chisel again, take away the big chunks at the top, and just keep going around, taking away all those chunks. I actually spent a bit more time on this one. This one I spent about an hour making, so I wanted to try and just kind of bring together some of the things that I had learned while doing this and try to bring them to the last, the final one I was doing. So I'm just trying to get the shape of the head first. I've found all the sides of the head, I'm finding the chin now, and now I'm drawing a line in the centre of that sphere for the eyes, and there's the triangular nose underneath. This probably wasn't the right way to do it at this point. I think it would have been better to do lots of dividing lines across and figure out where the features are, because I'm just carving faces, but I sort of want to get towards realism eventually, so I definitely need to work more on that. And now taking this material out here, and my idea was here to not think so much about the eyes at first, but just get some material taken away so the nose could stick out a bit further, because I realised the other ones that I made were quite flat-faced, but I think this one turns out fairly flat-faced as well. So now I'm just doing the part under the nose, and I've left lots of material on the forehead brow area which I'll be able to trim back, and I magically have trimmed it back in this next clip. I'm using this as normal bench chisel there, which you can use a lot of the time. I actually have a Skillshare class that teaches you how to make a really simple wood spirit face with a flat bench chisel. I'll put that in the description. Now I'm just doing some tiny little cuts on the nose, and there's that mark underneath the lip again. A gouge going straight through the side. You wouldn't be able to do that with every kind of wood probably. This is lime wood or basswood, so it's quite forgiving, that kind of thing. So I carved these 6 little practice heads, I suppose, or study heads. It took me about 4 hours maybe to carve all of them. and I'm going to try and use what I've learned from these to make something a bit larger out of this ash log. So now we're just going to see how that works out, and I'll kind of talk you through as I'm doing it. So I just looked at a reference or two, and I've just planned out a rough sort of sketch of the face here. I don't want to get too in depth because I'm going to be carving away a lot of this. I'm going to start with the nose because you know, this part of the nose right here is the part that's most, you know, furthest out part of the wood. It's the part of your face that comes out the furthest on most people. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on lowering everything else around where the nose is and figuring out where the shape is before we continue with everything else. So I've drawn my simple face on there, and once again I'm going for the kind of showing where the nose is. So we're taking away the material away from the outside and making the nose the part that sticks forward the most. In a sense, using a log or a round piece of wood can be easier because you've already kind of got the shape of the face. If you think about your face from looking down from above, your nose sticks out at the front. You know, and if you look around, it's sort of a circular shape from the top. So having a circular shape to start off with kind of helps because it helps the roundness, like the way the eyes turn back towards the side of the face. So it sort of helps with that shape. I don't know if it helps that much. Now I'm just trying to work out where the eyes are, and now I'm making them with the gouge. And just making those, like I said, making the parts stick up out of the face, like make the eyeballs sticking further out. And I've already shaped the nose quite a lot there. I'm just trying to make the eyeballs kind of ball shaped in a sense, so that I can work on them and figure out where I want the pupils to be and that sort of stuff. Now I'm taking more material from the side with a fishtail gouge, that is. You can see the profile there is actually quite good. You can see the nose and the brow and the start of the lips. Now we've done a bit more work to the eyes and the brow, and I'm working up to the forehead and the hairline. We didn't do a hairline before, so I'm trying it out on this one to see how it works out. Here's the bottom line. Actually, I did this in the centre of the lip this time. I think after looking at a few more tutorials, I did a kind of lip centre line. And there you go. You can see that lip line there, and the bit underneath the lip, the little curve, and a chin sticking out as well. Now I'm trying to do the irises of the eye, which can be really tricky. So just taking a really small gouge here and just trying to chip those out. The eyes here were kind of too small for pupils. I could drill a hole for the pupils, or you know, I like to have the pupils hovering usually, but you know, I couldn't really do it in that sense because they're so tiny. So now we're going to figure out the ear, just taking some material away, and then I looked up a tutorial on Pinterest to show me how to shape or how to sculpt ears from clay. So it's kind of related to woodworking, but not entirely, but it helps you see the shape. So if you need help with that, yeah, you should go on Pinterest and look up guides on how to sculpt clay into facial features, because it breaks it down into lots of different shapes, which can help. And I'm just clearing out waste from under the chin, and now using a normal bench chisel to chip away where the hair is. And then later on I shape it with a gouge, just to give it a more hair type look, which is what I'm doing now. So you can see this face is maybe better proportions than the other ones. The features look more normal in a sense, but also still quite caricaturish, I think. It's really hard to break away from the caricature into the realism, I find, but I'm sure I'll figure it out one day. And now I'm just going to cut it off from the base and chuck some paint on it to bring out the features. So there's the finished head, but not entirely finished. We're going to put some linseed oil on it and try and buff it up a little bit, and then I'm going to put some oil paint over the top to really bring out the features. So let's do that now and see what it looks like. Now a lot of the time I would use oil paint mixed with oil or with some kind of spirit or something to thin it down. This time I just put it straight on as is. I just kind of made sure to get it in all those little gaps and cracks and everything. Really push it down in there and brush it on, and then wipe it off afterwards because it shows all the features, you know. It's a really nice way of bringing out features in a carving, especially if you're using a really like kind of pale wood. Now we'll wipe off the paint to reveal some of the details. Oh yeah, that's worked really well. The problem I have with ash sometimes is that it's a very like bright white wood, and that means that sometimes when you carve details in you can't really see them that well because it just reflects so much light. But with this, you can see it's really brought out all those lines. So now we'll go through each head and you'll see how it progressed as I went on. So there's head number 1. You can see the profile's kind of flat, but it's not too bad. The head, I don't know, it's a bit chubby cheeked maybe. Like I said, these were pretty quick heads, so that's number 1. Alright, I'll put that over there. Alright, here's number 2. So I think that one's a little bit better. Still got kind of a flat profile, but you know, this is not, that's not meaning to say that everyone's heads are the same, because they're not. Everyone's heads are different, so that's one thing to consider, I suppose. Number 3, I felt like I was getting a little bit better at this point. Maybe the profile's a bit better. They're still all kind of pouting with their lips, which is one thing I was trying to avoid with the last guy. It's still quite difficult though. Number 4. This is where I decided to try and take lots of material off at once with the big chisel, because I thought I could make it go faster if I did that. Turns out that wasn't a very good idea. This is actually the worst head I made, I think, and it's number 4. This guy looks really grumpy, and yeah, there's something completely not right with the head. So at least not what I was aiming for. This is number 5, and I went back to doing it the way I was doing it before. This guy is like mega masculine. In fact, the last 2 I did were really super masculine heads with massive jaws and block heads. Profile's still a bit flat, but like I said, these were quite quick, so I guess that's part of the problem there. And this was the last one before I did the big head. So this guy looks like he's straight out of some cartoon. But you know, I think it's a bit of progress. The lips, I think I got a little bit better that time, but and the nose as well maybe. So that's number 6, and then we come to this guy who is number 7. So I know we have the added advantage of seeing him coloured in with the dye and everything, but I think you can see that compared to the others, he has a much more normal looking jaw. The profile is much better. If I get these guys out of the way, we'll be able to see his profile a bit more there. There we go. So you can see that the profile is much better, especially if I go up to the black there. You see I did ears on him as well, because I was trying to experiment a bit more. The shape of the head is a bit more the way it should be, I think, anyway. And it's still a bit, you know, we're still sort of on the side of cartoony. We're not quite there with realism yet, but and I think his forehead was actually bigger than this before I shifted the hair down a bit, so he still has a very large forehead, I think. But you know, like I said, everyone's different. I have a very square head myself, so if I was going to do this, it'd be good to start from a square block of wood. But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And you can see this is quite a lot different from the 6 before, so I think it's definitely worth giving this method a try to try and improve yourself. And maybe I'll look back on this in a year's time, and I will have made something a lot better, who knows. Thank you very much for watching that video. I really appreciate you hanging around for that. I know it was kind of a long video, and we did a lot of different things, and there was a lot of things to absorb. But you know, that is the nature of lots of different kinds of woodworking. For me, wood carving is really interesting, but also quite challenging at times. But you know, I feel like that's kind of the whole point. There'd be no point doing this if it was easy. I don't think there'd be much point doing it. So yeah, thank you very much for coming along to that. If you want to see me try out this stuff live, you can come to twitch.tv/TimBrenew every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday at 3 PM UK time. I stream all different kinds of things. At the moment I'm carving a British woodland scene with lots of different elements that were picked by the viewers on Twitch. So that's really interesting, and that carving's going to last me a long time because there's a lot to do. So once again, thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give it a thumbs up and share the video around if you think some people will enjoy it, or some people you know will enjoy it, and hopefully I'll catch you again next time. Thanks a lot.